Hi, second graders. Today we are going to be reading this story, Montague on the High Seas. So, what I want you to do is to get out your reading book and to open it to page 246. So, we're going to begin by looking at the title and then looking at the picture. So, our title is called Montague on the High Seas. So, if you look at this picture, let's do some brainstorming about what this story might be about. Well, so far I see a boat and I see maybe a whale, a fin of a whale, or the tail of a whale. And then I see looks like a rat or a mouse in a bottle. So to me, this story might be about this mouse or a rat who went sailing on the on a boat on the sea. So that's my prediction based on the picture. So go ahead and maybe make your own prediction what you think the story might be about. So let's go ahead and read together. Montague on the High Seas. So follow along with your finger so that you can learn how to pronounce new words and that you're paying attention and learning what the story is about. So you can look at this picture on the left on page 248. It says "Hole, sweet hole," and there's a sleeping critter. So we'll find out what it's about. In a cozy hole by the sea, there lived a young mole. So it wasn't a rat or a mouse, it was a mole. His name was Montague. Montague loved his home. It was cool in the afternoons and warm in the evenings. One day it began to rain. Soon the rain was coming down in buckets. By evening, Montague's home was flooded. He had to find a safe space to spend the night. Montague swam and swam until he noticed a funny-looking house propped up on a rock. He was so tired that he fell into a deep sleep as soon as he crawled inside. Montague woke up, rested and warm. It was a few moments before he realized he had been swept out to sea. Oh, goodness. So a lot has happened in the beginning of this story. So we see that it started raining and Montague's home was flooded. So how would you feel if your whole house was flooded? I'm sure Montague was really scared and maybe sad about it because that's his home. It said that he swam and then he saw a funny looking house propped up on a rock. That wasn't a house. Look closer at the picture. What does that look like to you guys? It looks like the opening to a bottle. So he crawled inside this bottle and he fell asleep. So then he was swept out to sea. So it sounds like our main character's name is Montague and he's a mole. And the problem of our story, at least to me, I think the problem is that his home was flooded and he gets swept out to sea. So let's continue reading on page 250. Poor Montague drifted for days with nothing to eat except lime soda and with nothing to drink except lime soda and nothing to eat but seaweed. He grew lonely and bored as he stared at the horizon day after day. Then one morning he noticed a dark shadow beneath him. Suddenly he was thrown into the air by a giant humpback whale. Montague clung to the bottle as it slowly filled with water and sank. So Montague's on the water in this bottle and he's lonely and sad and hungry. And then he gets knocked out of his bottle by this big humpback whale. So I think he might get sadder and sadder as this story goes on and more scared because nothing good seems to be happening to Montague. A passing fish spotting an interesting meal swallowed the bottle, mole and all. But before Montague knew what was happening, the fish was yanked up by a huge net. Montague and the bottle fell out of his mouth and onto the deck of a ship. Montague looked up half dazed and saw a giant sailor looming over him. He was holding a giant cat. The cat leapt after him, but Montague scuttled into a hole. Safe at last, he thought. What a funny-looking mouse, said a voice beside him. So Montague got onto the ship and he ran away from the cat. So it sounds like moles are similar to mice where they run away from cats. So what a funny-looking mouse, said a voice beside him. So some thinks he's a mouse. Montague was surrounded by mice. What were you doing out there? One asked nervously. Don't you know that Barnacles the cat is trying to clear us off the ship? Montague began to tell him how he came to the ship. He told them of battling raging seas, riding giant whales, fighting off mole-eating fish, and he told them of the crash of his bottle ship. Just as he was coming to the end of the story, Montague fell off his perch and knocked over a bottle of kitchen supplies. When things settled down, the mice cheered. Montague had given them an idea. The mice scurried in every direction, collecting bits of cloth, rags, and other supplies. Even Montague got caught up in the fun. So if you look at the little picture on the bottom of page 255, they're pulling a sock off of someone's foot. The cat is watching them. They're grabbing this cloth, so I wonder what they could be making with all this material. They all worked together, and soon their fleet was launched. So a fleet is a group of ships. So it looks like their group of ships are made out of bottles. The mice elected Montague as their captain. As they glided over the sea, he began to enjoy the thrill of guiding the ships through the waves. In a few days, one of the mice shouted, "Land ho!" When they were safely ashore, the mice carried Montague on their shoulders. They asked him to live with them, and he happily accepted. They started building their homes right away. Montague loved his new home. It was cool in the afternoons and warm in the evenings, and now he had lots of friendly neighbors. And if he ever felt the pull of the high seas, he still had his bottle and his sail. So I would say this story was kind of an adventure story. It was the story of Montague, and he became an adventurer on the high seas. Did he choose to be an adventurer? Not really. His home was flooded, and so he had to leave his home. So he was almost forced into this adventure, but I think he ended up really liking it. So maybe some of us think that we're shy and we don't want an adventure, we're scared and we don't want an adventure. But sometimes when we try something out, we decide that it's actually better than maybe we thought it was going to be. So, Montague on the High Seas is our story for this week. I hope you guys really, really enjoy it.